What is up, everybody? It's your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast. This the post weigh-in video for odds.com, and I apologize, my angle's a little different. My setup isn't so pretty today. I am sorry about that. We gotta bust through this one real quick. It's been a wild day for me. So let's go ahead and break this thing down. We have a whole bunch of fights now that we've got to go back to the drawing board and research all over again because we have dropouts left and right. We've got new fights, we've got cancellations. I'm ready to pull my hair out. I love MMA, but it's days like today, the craziness of this sport that you simply don't have to deal with in most other sports. So let's dive right on in. We've got Chris Gutierrez. He weighs in at 135.5. He looked in great shape, solid, confident. He's the biggest favorite on the card right now. His opponent, Cody Durden, comes in at 135.5 as well, and he seems really amped up. I mean, I know he's making his UFC debut. He's allowed to be excited, but he seems like super overly emotional. Cody got into Gutierrez's face at the stare downs, and it was an intense way to start the face-offs, and he looks ready to rock. I mean, honestly, I don't mind people who are taking the shot on Cody Durden. I saw a little bit of his recent fight tape. I was able to dig a little bit of it up, had a couple connections help me out there. I'm not going to make a move. One thing I noticed is that Durden has surprisingly chicken legs. I thought he was going to be more of a high caliber grappler, have that nice thick lower body that we're normally used to seeing. But since he didn't, I feel like that's something that's going to be a bit of a weakness. That could pose an opportunity for the leg kicks of Gutierrez. And Gutierrez looks like a brick shithouse. So I know that the grappling is really Cody Durden's path to victory here. I think this one's going to be close and hairy, and I'm not going to step in front of it. This is just going to be a fireball and popcorn fight to kick off the evening. I was hoping maybe I could put a bet on it by this point for you guys and give you some more info, but we just got to pass and stay safe on this one. Immer's taken on a late replacement. Immers lost his opponent here and is now taking on Vincent Cochero, who is another person who I need to look into. Now, what I can tell you about Vincent is he is 7-2, so not a whole lot of experience. 1 knockout loss, 1 decision loss. Immers weighed near the end. He seems to have maybe struggled a little bit with his weight cut to 146. He was completely shredded, absolutely shredded. He's huge for this weight class, and no wonder he may have struggled a little bit. It takes everything he's got to get down there and get down to that 0% body fat for his weigh-in. Cochero, he came in well muscled. He looks really thick, really suited for this division. However, he's going to be at a pretty decent size advantage here. So that's going to be the biggest concern. I want to see what the line comes out as. From what I've seen so far, Cochero's got some decent boxing skills on him, but that reach advantage and then the grappling for Immers, I think is going to make a huge difference. So I don't know that I'm going to end up putting a bet on that one because I expect Immers to be a decent-sized favorite, but Cochero looks like he's got the goods. He might not be a bad pickup for the UFC here. Marcus Perez, his opponent fell out, and then his short notice replacement also got pulled by the commission. So unfortunately, we don't get a fight for Marcus Perez, and it's really a damn shame because he looked good. He looked really, really good at the scales. He was pumped up. He gave off like this battle cry and pounded his chest. I feel really bad for him because he's not going to be able to perform on Saturday, and we lost our bet on him. So I'm really upset about that one. Johnny Munoz Jr. is filling in again Nate Maness because Ray Borg once again is pulled off of a card. Really bummed about that one. There goes our bet there. So we don't get to play on Ray Borg, and Munoz Jr. came in at 145.5. He looked good. He was really thickly built. He's usually a 135er, so coming up an extra 10 pounds, you'd expect him to carry a little bit more weight, but he definitely didn't look out of shape. You know, a lot of times when these guys come in an extra 10 pounds up, they look like they belong a weight class down. They look like they're just carrying that extra weight around their midsection or something, and he definitely did not look that way. He looked like he was suited for 145, so good sign there. Nate Maness, he came in at 144.5. He looked really good as well. Nothing really unusual to report here, and they squared up. It was a decent face-off. I mean, nothing really to report. Both men looked confident. Both guys right about the same size. So Munoz Jr. coming in on short notice, sizes up really well with Manez. That one's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to look into Munoz Jr. What I can tell you, just at a surface level, he's 27 years old, 10-0 with 6 submission wins. So if I can see that he's got a grappling advantage, I mean, maybe he's a perfect fill-in for Borg. Now, Manis has been preparing for Borg, so he's going to be ready for the takedown defense, and it's a similar matchup potentially, except Munoz may have more of a finishing threat than Ray Borg did. So this is one that I'm very interested in looking into, especially if we get Manis as a favorite and then Munoz Jr. as a decent-sized underdog. He may be a more of a vicious finisher, and we might be able to get some dog in there. So let's see. We'll come back. We'll circle on that one. What I'm planning to do is trying to do a little bit of tape research tonight on the newbies and see if maybe I can do like a shout-out blast either first thing tomorrow morning or maybe late this evening and give you guys updates and see if I want to pull the trigger on anything. We are gonna have to wait for those lines to drop, however, because right now with the late notice replacements, obviously they're not out yet. So even if we have a read, we've got nothing to bet on. Ed Herman taking on Gerald GM3 Mearshart. This parlay play is still intact for us. Both men came in, Ed Herman 206, Mearshart at 204.5. And I'll be honest, Ed Herman did not look great. He seemed really relieved to have made weight. He looked, I mean, I know Ed Herman doesn't really look good these days at 39 years old. He's not going to be overly impressive on the scales. But in this case, it really kind of stood out to me that he looked like he was having kind of a rough day. Gerald Mearshart, he came in really good shape. He looks good. He looks like 205 kind of suits him. He's one of these bigger guys at 185. He had some extra size on him, but I could still see abs. I could still see muscles. I mean, it wasn't another one of these flabby roll off the couch type situations. He looked pretty thick, so not really overly concerned about that. The one thing that I did note, though, is when they faced off, Ed Herman looks massive. I mean, I thought these guys were the same size, and Ed Herman just looked huge. What I suspect, I couldn't see their feet. It looked like maybe Ed Herman was wearing shoes and Mearshart was barefoot or something along those lines, because Ed Herman looked like he was just towering over Mearshart. Now, if they get into the cage and it's the same situation, I'm going to be terrified, because if Ed Herman really is that much bigger than Mearshart, we could be on the wrong side of an underdog here on this one. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see. The bet's already locked in. There's nothing we can do about it now, but I really wish I could confirm whether or not Ed had shoes on at that weigh-in. Frankie Saenz taking on Jonathan Martinez. Frankie Saenz comes in at 136. He looked really good. He looked in good shape, good spirits, flexed, showed off the muscle for the camera. And then you've got Jonathan Martinez, who missed weight, and he missed it badly. He came in at 140.5, so missed it by like 4.5 pounds. Almost probably got pulled off the card if he had missed it by half a pound more. The commission's not going to let you play. So his weight miss, to me, this one feels like a bad one. He didn't flex. He looked completely deflated. He was low energy. And the last couple times we've talked about fighters looking like this comes to mind like Joe Benavidez. Like when they step off the scale and they just look completely defeated, completely flat. Those guys have been losing recently. So I'm making the move. I'm pulling the trigger. I've locked in a bet on Frankie Saenz. I got plus 205. I always said that the smaller cage is going to favor him. He's got a huge grappling advantage here. He's one of these fighters who knows exactly what he needs to do. And in his last fight, I know people are worried about his durability and his age. He got knocked out by Chito Vera, who he was massively undersized against. However, he is not undersized against Martinez. When they stepped up to face off and get in each other's grills, he really wasn't that much smaller. It looks like he's very comparable size-wise to Martinez. He's going to be at a reach advantage, but he's not going to be at a size or a strength disadvantage, it doesn't look like, according to their bodies. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice. I'm going to take that shot on this aging veteran, and I'm hoping that Martinez has slipped up enough that that gas tank is damaged, because that's something that we see with these botched weight cuts. Sometimes those gas tanks are really what takes the hit, because they tried to make the weight, something went wrong, they got sick, I don't know, so they didn't get the cardio in that they usually do. In the smaller cage, that favors the grapplers, and if there's any type of gas tank issue with Martinez, Frankie Saenz is just going to grind this kid out, and I think we could edge away with a decision here. Kevin Holland taking on Trevin Giles. This is the one I'm most looking forward to on the card here, and I couldn't be more sold on Kevin Holland, and the weigh-ins just helped reinforce that. I mean, he looked in phenomenal shape. He's just reeking confidence at the face-offs, and he gave a big flex for everybody. I mean, he's a showman. He's definitely that kind of fighter. Trevin Giles comes in at 185. He weighed in second, so he came in early, didn't seem to have any issues. Business as usual. However, he was massively undersized against Holland, so for being the guy who's naturally up a weight class, I mean, for him to be as undersized as he was, really stood out to me. I think Kevin Holland is going to have his way with Giles and really kind of finish that one whichever way he wants to. I still predict Holland by submission. I'm thinking probably second or third round once Trevin Giles starts to gas out and his defense wanes a little bit. But yeah, I love Kevin Holland in that spot. Groovy Lando Veneta coming in at 155.5. And you know what? he seemed a little tired. He gave kind of a half-hearted flex at the end of the weigh-ins, and he seemed kind of exhausted, almost like he was checked out already. Him and Bobby Green both weighed in late, so that might have had something to do with it. Bobby Green came in at 156, and even though he came in late, he looked in really good physical shape, and he gave a big confident flex. He was up there having fun. And then when they faced off, Bobby Green got up in his face. I mean, Bobby Green was intense, and he refused to break contact. I mean, Lando Venata turned away to flex for the cameras and stuff, and Bobby Green just kept staring him down. Bobby Green is ready to go in this fight, folks, and I do want to tell you, I am taking a good, hard look at Bobby Green right now. That was one that I've been kind of picking and poking at, leaning towards maybe pulling the trigger on all the way through the week. I feel like this is a 50-50 type of fight with a slight edge to Bobby Green. And I know Venata won the first fight, but I heard an interview with Bobby Green where he had a brand new coach for that fight. He came in out of shape for that fight. He didn't really have any opportunity to train, and they definitely didn't look into or prep for Venata as an individual. He was just barely getting the wheels rolling with a new coach. Now, that coach and fighter, that relationship, that's so important for these fighters. And if you're just barely starting to feel each other out, just barely starting to get used to working with each other, I can absolutely see how your performance may not be that sharp. And what happened in that first fight is that Venata really was taking over at the beginning, and Bobby Green figured him out as the fight went on and was actually starting to take over towards the back end. What that tells me is that Bobby Green is going to be the one who can make the better adjustments. I think now that Bobby Green has had an opportunity to get used to his coaching, he seems to have gotten his career kind of righted. He's going back the right direction, and now he's had prep time against a familiar opponent. He may very well have the edge here. So don't everybody run out and pull that trigger just yet, because money appears to still be coming in on Lando Venata. I think we can get a better line here. Right now, Bobby Green is sitting about plus 130, plus 135. I see him poking up to plus 140 in certain places. I would like to get plus 140 or plus 145. If I can see that line peak up to there, I'm definitely going to roll the dice here on Bobby Green. Now, if the line starts to tip the other direction and I see it start to move, I'll probably take that plus 135 or plus 130, and I'll just stick it in my pocket. It's thin value, but like I said, I think this is a 50-50 fight, and Bobby Green is the one of the two fighters who really looks like he's ready to go. So that's probably going to be a bet. Don't be surprised when I tweet that one out. Vicente Luque coming in here, Randy Rude Boy Brown. Vicente weighed in at 170.5 pounds. Business as usual. Very relaxed, very casual. Honestly, nothing to report. He's not one of these guys that's a physical monster, so I can't even speak to how great he looked on the scales or anything. Just did his thing. Randy Brown, however, looked in phenomenal shape, and when they faced off, you could really see the height and the size advantage for Randy Brown. So I'm really excited about this one. I took the underdog stab here on Randy Brown, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely enjoying where I'm sitting, and it looks like the line has kind of gone the other way against me here. You can get plus 170 or plus 175 out there on Randy Brown, and I feel like maybe I moved in a little bit too early, so I wish I could get plus 175 or plus 180 on that line. I think he's a live dog here, and as I talked about, I think that Vicente Luque's chin is just ripe to be cracked, and with that reach advantage, Randy Brown is the guy who might be able to do it for us. Jojo Calderwood taking on Jennifer Maia. Jojo weighed in at 126. Maia was the very first one to the scales, and she actually came in a half pound under. She was 124.5. Joanne Calderwood looked immediately ready to get off the scale. As soon as she weighed in, she didn't even flex. She just wanted to walk away. Now, this is something that I've spoken about before. Normally, I take that as a bad sign. Normally, I take that as poor body language. You had a bad weight cut, something's going on mentally speaking. You just want to get out of there. Now with Jojo, she's a bit of a curious situation. She keeps to herself, she's very quiet, she's a little mousy, and because of that, I don't know if that's accurate. Simply because of that situation, I don't know if I can apply that logic to Jojo Calderwood. And then when they went to weigh in, or when they went to face off, she's the one that stepped up on Maia. She got right up in her face. She went eye to eye with her and nose to nose with her. She initiated the intensity for the face-off. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But then as soon as they said that they were done, she immediately turned heel and walked off the stage as quick as she could. So honestly, I'm having a bit of a hard time reading my girl Jojo. I'm very, very tempted to add in another bet on Jojo because I locked her in a parlay. She was already a huge favorite. I tied her with Gerald Mearshart, with that's already a gambly situation. And now she's been bet all the way down to minus 145. At this point, Jojo's in the vicinity where you can play her straight. I expected that line to get wider, so I parlayed her thinking she's going to end up being minus 220 or something like that. Now that she's down to minus 140, minus 145, I might end up doubling up on Jojo Calderwood just to back her straight in case something goes wrong with Gerald Meerschaert. We'll see. We'll see, though, because like I said, that body language didn't exactly make me excited, although I do think she's far and away the better fighter in this situation. Derek Brunson, Edmen Shahbazyan. Brunson came in at 186, and he seemed really just meh. I got nothing from him. Unenthusiastic flex, just here doing my job. You know what I mean? And not even business as usual. He just seemed really not there, not dialed in. Edmen Shahbazyan, on the other hand, he seemed very relaxed. Very young kid, coming in, business as usual, I'd describe it that way. He was just doing what he was supposed to, but he definitely still looked like he was in this thing. And honestly, when they faced off, I was surprised at how much bigger Ed was than Brunson. I thought Brunson might actually be the more physically imposing of the two. I thought he was going to be larger, but Ed had about a half head on Derek Brunson, so bigger, stronger frame. And when we're talking about a guy like Brunson needing to try and mix in the takedowns and work in the grappling for him to have any chance of success in this fight, that doesn't bode well, him being the physically smaller of the two fighters. I've got my parlay tied to Edmen Shahbazyan, and I absolutely love it here. Good face-off. Didn't expect to have that extra significant advantage here for Edmen to be the bigger man, but I will take it. There you have it. That is the weigh-in recap video, folks. We've got one official play that's already been made. Frankie signs. That is happening. I'm rolling the dice on the dog. And then we have two potential other plays that are coming. Keep an eye out on my Twitter, @DieHardMMAPod. We may very well have a late blast video. Once I have a chance to research these short notice replacements, maybe we have a few more bets coming in your way. Be sure to tune in to Odds HQ. My boys Mo Scream and Nick are going to be going live with their own post-weigh-in show to let you know what they thought of it a little later on today. And then, of course, tomorrow, Odds HQ will be live throughout the fights for a live stream. Hang out with the Odds Squad, everybody. Thank you very much. Good luck on your action. Let's make some money. Let's roll.